live in a great entrepreneurial region. A recent survey showed Seattle 6th in the country of top entrepreneurial cities, ahead of New York, Detroit, Houston, and San Francisco. Washington State was third in entrepreneurial growth and tied for second in the number of new companies. We at the University of Washington Business School are proud of our efforts to foster entrepreneurial growth and education. It is one of our most important missions. Part of that mission is our support for this program, Entrepreneurs and Innovators. This is our 8th season of presenting important stories of how entrepreneurs and innovators have struggled and succeeded in developing and marketing better products and services. Congratulations in the past 8 years. We look forward to even better future.
We are going to transport you to an unknown location of which you're going to participate in a high-tech treasure hunt. Go ahead and turn them on.
After 9 years in the corporate confines of Microsoft, he's now teaching us how to use technology and exciting adventures to build life and business skills. He's a ball of energy named John Chen. Next on Entrepreneurs and Innovators.
Entrepreneurs and Innovators, exploring the ideas and personalities of men and women who are creating our rich business climate. The hosts for Entrepreneurs and Innovators are Bud Saxberg, professor at the University of Washington Graduate School of Business, and Stephen H. Dunphy, business columnist, The Seattle Times.
When John Chen was searching for a name for his company, he came up with Playtime Incorporated. It fits. He uses events like mountain climbing and treasure hunts to teach clients leadership skills and team building. And he does it like a true entrepreneur, with passion, technology, and daring. John Chen calls himself a big kid with an old soul. His own journey began with world-class software development at Microsoft, but he soon felt the need to branch out on his own. John, welcome to Entrepreneurs and Innovators. John, look at all this material, the equipment here on the desk here, and it strikes me that fun is a pretty serious business. Is that true?
Yes. You can see our play is serious business. It even comes in from our name, Playtime Incorporated. It wants to make our work as fun as possible. But the incorporated part says that we have real lessons to teach at the end of a program. So that's what we want to make sure and be able to do, is that there's real value at the end of the program, but there's much better ways to teach it where it's really enjoyable. Mm.
Well, it strikes me that I don't know how do you do it when it sounds like it's so much just playtime, really. You know, you're doing treasure hunts, you're doing all this sort of stuff. I mean, how does it really go from that to becoming a really effective business tool?
Well, I think the way they do is that you can't have just recreation, and I think we've all had this experience where we do recreation, it's fun, and then it goes away, and it never translates to work. And I think you can be done in a particular way with some process in there, where you can do it where it's matched so that it represents work, and that you do some planning so that you bring things back into work at the end. And I think that's where it can make a real difference. And more importantly is that where we don't tell you what to do, but in the end that you make the decision that you want to take some skill that you learned somewhere with us back into work, and that will make a difference.
Do you have to come at it from a corporate point of view in the first place, that this is an important thing you're doing as opposed to being just, fun, playtime kind of thing?
I don't know, it goes both ways. I think when we have really educated buyers, actually, they will go further and they say that, yes, we definitely want these things that are really important to a program. Key facilitation, metaphors that meet their work, situations that look like their work but puts them in a new situation so that they can examine their actions without repercussions. But quite honestly, a lot of our customers come in, start looking for the fun, and then find out that there's value at the end. And then that's kind of like the fish hook that we reel them in with. Yeah.
When you think about this kind of thing, your vision is of the dot-com age, when all these companies were doing, Yahoo was doing this, and the beer and pizza on Friday afternoon, and all this sort of thing. Is that where it grew out of, or is there a more serious kind of a theme here that's built up over the years with this kind of a thing?
The field's been around a long time. It's actually, I thought it was amazing. I got exposed to it in about '97, and that's when I really became interested. Again, I was doing software at the time, but then I got really fascinated with people who could create human change. And again, mostly people were doing it through adventure, so big adventures, whether it was climbing or ropes courses or other types of things. But I haven't seen many people do it with technology. And I think that's what was interesting and fascinating about it. And what came out of that is that the field's been around for a long time. It went through some ups and downs where there was it kind of gets into a fad phase where people all went to it and then they went away from it. And now I believe it's coming back because I think there's a lot of value to it. And especially in this case with technology, because people have to integrate with technology. We have a saying where, technology becomes a new team member and you have to learn to communicate and trust, your technology as much as, another person.
How did you happen to arrive at the decision that you really were going to make this a full-time effort? I mean, after all, for a technical person, this is pretty far-fetched. This is soft stuff.
Exactly. I think my first start came when I was at Microsoft, and I worked on a variety of projects, but the biggest one that I worked on was Microsoft Exchange. And I was the test lead at the time. I'm actually one of the few people that's actually done test, development, and program management at Microsoft. Those are the 3 core jobs that make any product. But at that time, I got selected. First time Exchange got put together was 8 different components, and this is a story nobody likes to tell at Microsoft.
What is Exchange?
Exchange was electronic mail server.
Okay.
Outlook is probably the front end, and Exchange was the back end server to that. And Exchange basically came together as 8 different teams that made separate components and put them together for the first time. And the first time that we did that, if Steve here sent email to 10 people, the whole server would fall over for a day and not come back. We weren't shipping it at this time, obviously. What happened was I put it in charge by Brian Valentine, who's now the Senior VP of Windows at Microsoft. He created a performance team. And so it was me and a few other people's jobs to get these 8 teams to work together to make the performance go faster. And that's when I became fascinated with getting these 8 teams together. If anybody's ever worked on technical teams, getting 2 teams to agree is really challenging. We got 8 to agree, and by the end, we had 22,500 simulated users on a server. We shipped that first version, which is the first client-server electronic mail program in the world. I helped win 2 patents for Microsoft at that period of time. And it went to go on to be the fastest selling client-server program in the world.
And how did you then make the transfer into really what then became your enterprise, your own entrepreneurial effort?
Yeah, so then this is where I met an executive coach actually, and I always had a saying that I kept telling myself for a while, which is I knew there was something I had to do, but I just don't know what it was, right? And so everyone else would say, yeah, I have the same thing too. They would just sympathize with me. This guy gave me a different answer. I said this to him and he goes, give me a weekend and I'll tell you exactly what it is. And I'm like, wow, that's an enticing offer. I've never heard that answer before. So I had the financial resources and the time to do it, and so I said yes to it. I came out of 48 hours later holding the business plan for Playtime Inc. at the end of that. And it was very much, I don't know, have you seen the movie Jerry Maguire? Mm-hmm. It's very much like that. I call it Jerry Maguire experience, because at the end you're holding this going, oh no, I wrote it down. Now I have to do it. And that was the beginning, and out of that came the core passions that I have for technology, for adventure, and for human change. And that's the 3 things that really came out of that business plan. And while not everything has worked out in the plan, those 3 things have still stayed with me since the beginning.
How did you get enough confidence to actually do it? You know, you are going to be dealing with other people, trying to get them convinced that you actually know something. And from their point of view, it looks dangerous, the whole thing.
It was a long process. It took me about 2.5 years after I wrote that business plan, first to leave Microsoft. I was still currently at Microsoft. And so I started the business part-time. And I can say that anybody I think who's ever either tried to start a dream or has actually finished that can probably attest to that, where there are many times along the way which you want to turn around, you don't want to go, it just seems too hard, it may seem impossible. And I credit my coach for getting me through that first 2.5 years. I don't think I would have ever left the security and safety of Microsoft had not.
What do you think was the key to sort of making the entrepreneurial leap?
He was fantastic in this way. I mean, there was a day, and I just went on to complain to him. Well, I'd start avoiding things. We have what we used to call the coach rush, which is if you've ever had a coach, or like at school, you wait till the last minute and then try and get it all done so you can tell your coach that you got it done.
Yeah, that's the newspaper world.
Yeah, the deadlines. It's all about deadlines. One time I got really disconnected and I said, I really don't think I want to do this. And he brought me down to Huntington Beach and he took me to a ropes course. And he said, your job is to go and help as many people and find as many improvements as you can with this place, right? So we went through there and we just started helping people. We got to meet the owner. I got to interview him. And we went through, and at the end of the day, I had over 150 improvements for the course. And the more importantly, it's the first thing, from the first step that I walked onto the course, it was like I was home. I was like excited. I was like seeing all the different things that were going on with the change. I knew that was exactly why I wanted to do it. And then he told me, this was one of the first $2 million ropes courses in Southern California. And he wasn't even as passionate about it. Actually, the guy wanted to be parapenting, right? Not doing ropes courses, and that there were all these other improvements he do. Things like that convinced me that I could do it.
How much do you think that experience draws out of the fact that that you got there and you sort of knew what you were talking about, or you knew that you were what you were talking about? There's a certain amount of confidence walking into the workplace or any kind of a situation that you don't know whether you've got it to make it work, but then all of a sudden the light goes on and says, I really do know how to do this, and I really can compete.
I think that was it. I mean, every time, if you ever think you have it bad, right, you do some comparison shopping. I think during Thanksgiving, for instance, we do a project called the Basket Brigade. It's a nonprofit project, and we deliver baskets of food to in-need people at Thanksgiving. And I mean, if you ever want to go and find out if you have skills or not, go look at some of the other things that are out there. And I think that's what convinced me, is I was able to say that, well, these people have a thriving business, and I see that there's more improvements that you can make on top of that. So I guess therefore I must know something. And I think also having a very, very unique background, I also found a niche that I didn't think was being filled. Most facilitators are technophobes for the most part. And having that ability to talk with technical people for that team aspect, I thought was a rare trait. So those were, I think, the two things that really convinced me I could do it.
How would you describe the content of the program that you offer? What sort of goes on when you attempt to create this change effect, both within the individual and the group, as well as hopefully when the individual goes back to his work situation?
Yeah, we have a number of things, and it starts off with a needs analysis, and it's really about talking with the customer or the client and finding out what are their team challenges that they have. And then it comes in with custom designing something that represents that, or the desired change that they like. And so let me see if I can use an example. One of the major retail stores that's in the area has a huge store where there are, what they described was, their challenge was 5 separate stores under one roof. And so the stores didn't interoperate, but they really wanted what they called the whole store shopping experience, where a customer would never knew when they transferred between one department and the other. But these 5 different stores weren't sharing information, weren't helping each other. And so in this part, what we wanted to do is that one of our most popular configurations is called a competitive collaborative, and it came out of my time at Microsoft. I've seen team building where everyone tries to do everything collaborative. It doesn't engage people in the end, right? They get the solution, but they're like, so what? It's a lot of times what I've seen out of that. So I think you have to have the two at the exact same time. So in this case, I had the 5 teams. They were competing with each other, much like they are 5 stores underneath one roof. But they're also collaborating with each other. And the way that we did this in this case is that there were 20 locations they had to go to. No team could do it by themselves. They had to collaborate with other teams. But at the same time, they had to also figure out a strategy to stay one step ahead of the other team. And so by doing that, it was really interesting. The first time they went out in the day, they just went full on competitive, but they never got the collaborative goal, and they saw that they were hurting the store or hurting the larger corporate goal. And so then they started to collaborate, and in that case, actually, they were one of the few teams that we've had that's gotten the ultimate solution on the course. And they really took that to heart, and by the way, they not only shared information, they actually shared teammates across from different teams.
And when they were looking for their project, was that a project that you had set up as a routing for them, so that they in effect were given a challenge, and the completion of that challenge was going to, in some sense, be the destination for them?
Exactly, or sometimes not the completion of the challenge, because I think you can learn just as much, if not more, from failing. And so we design all of our scenarios that no matter what happens in the day, that we can bring something good to light from that. And in this case, actually, we end up adding this challenge at the end, and this team had this huge challenge to put a river crossing together that we ended up putting in because we wouldn't know if we had the course was challenging enough. And it turns out they actually failed at that very, very last part, even though they succeeded tremendously on everything just prior to that. And they said that really brought out a lot of lessons for them.
With the economy as bad as it's been the past couple of years, I mean, the workplace is getting kind of a, not a happy place for a lot of companies with layoffs and downsizing and all that sort of thing. Yeah. Do you see companies still coming to you for the kind of training that you do? More so, less so?
I'm really surprised. I mean, last year it was very, very quiet. But somewhere around April this year, the things turned around. I don't know if it was the stage that our business had been around for long enough, but people started calling us in tremendous amount. And I ended up kind of formulating a theory about it. All the companies, of course, that are still cutting or laying off or anything like that, of course, they would never do any team building. Because why would you spend and invest on somebody who's not going to be here tomorrow? But as soon as they hit that bottom point and they felt like we've made it, we've survived, we have the team now. If we've cut all the other people off, we have the team now that we're going to stay with. They started calling. And I thought that was really interesting. And so we've grown tremendously over the last 6 months. And over November, this month right now, is going to be our biggest month to date.
Wow. Maybe you're a leading economic indicator. Huh?
Yeah.
We should talk to you more.
I invest in the companies, yeah, that call me.
Do you do then sequential training so that you have different levels of involvement and presumably then achievement of kind of serious understanding of what needs to be done?
Yeah, we have basically 3 levels of programs, and this was helped designed by Dr. Simon Priest, who is with us. And Dr. Simon Priest has been in the field for 25 years of experiential education. And he really segmented into 4 kinds of programs, of which we do 3 of them really, really well. The first one is that recreational program. So first they come looking for us for fun. Because it looks interesting, and there is an effect by having just your people together to do that.
What would be an example of a recreational program that would carry your label?
The geoteaming program can actually do all 3 levels. So geoteaming is a GPS-powered team building or a high-tech treasure hunt. And the differentiation between one or the other is, in this case, it's not facilitated. We create the process, they go out, they do it, we do some awards at the end, but we never try and bridge it back to their work. You know, if they do that on their own. So that's what's called a recreational program. The next one's called an educational program. And again, the recreational program, its goal is to change the way you feel. So you feel good at the end of the day, we win, right? The next program, educational, if we change the way you think, then that's our goal. And so if you think about teamwork differently at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. And that's where it's facilitated and also starts to get some custom design. The third level is called developmental, and that's where we're trying to get people to act, right? To act differently, to behave differently back at work. And so that takes more work, from pre-work to pre-assessments to sometimes early sessions prior to a large event, then lots of follow-up sessions, and sometimes the biggest gain that people can get on return on investment for this type of team building training is what's called self-facilitating teams. If they teach facilitation skills to their key leaders and basically do what we're doing at the, by the end and in their day-to-day process, not only can they keep the gains from our team building event, they can actually increase them. And we actually have research that would show that.
So you get a sense that what you do lasts at a company? I mean, it's not just a one-time kind of thing that goes away in a couple of months?
It can if they do follow-up or the self-facilitating training. But I got to tell you, even after I show the chart, there are a number of people who don't. And what the research has shown is after, say, a 1 to 3 day event, basically you will get a big boost, but at the end of 6 months, you'll go right back to the beginning. And so it becomes like almost like software maintenance, right? You have to do it over and over and over again if you don't break the reliance on it.
Yeah. How did you, most companies when they start out, the financing, the capital to start is the big question. What did you do?
I was lucky enough that I took off from Microsoft, and so I self-financed myself. And I mean, I think there's a lot of advantages, of course, for doing it that way. I was lucky enough to be able to, and I think I'm still here because I was able to make a lot of mistakes and survive them and be able to get through that. I mean, there was a really challenging time, and I'm lucky enough to do it this way. I don't think everybody gets a chance to do it this way, but that's one of the reasons why we're still here, and really turning it around and seeing it now pay off for all the experience that we have.
Did you set yourself a limit, how much money you're going to put into this?
Yeah. And also, you know, what I tell people is a lot of people have asked me to speak about leaving your job and pursuing another one, because it's such a big leap. And I guess it's like an author who writes a book. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but everyone else thinks it's a big deal. And I go through that process. I tell people, if you can make the rules to the game so that you can win no matter what happens, then you've got a great situation. And I actually set myself up that way before I left Microsoft. That's actually part of what I spent my 2.5 years doing, was building that bridge, setting myself up in a way that I could be awful at this job. And I figured I'd be okay, like at least learn, I'm smart enough that I'd learn, but if I could be awful for this job for 10 years and still survive. And I figure, if I set myself up that way and I commit myself to this job for 10 years, that at the end of the 10 years, I should have figured it out. And I should be successful at the end. And that's kind of, I spent 10 years at Microsoft, and that's what I wanted to replicate, but outside for me at the end.
How many do you have working with you in the organization?
It's myself and 3 more, and then we have a contract staff now that we can grow to as large an event as necessary.
And what kinds of skills or knowledge do they represent? Do they come out of the recreational fields or technical fields or social science fields?
A lot of different fields, yeah. The Dr. Simon Priestley comes from the experiential field. We have Adam Hitch. He actually got a rec degree from Western Washington. So he's actually using his degree. He likes to laugh about that. But he says he has the perfect job in the world. But we have a director of sales, and she actually came from the wine industry. But she had a real interest in facilitation and the human change that we're doing. And that's why she came on to help us sell these events, so that she can also learn how to lead these events.
So is the company done as well as your Microsoft options?
Not yet. But I got to tell you, you know what my goal was when I left, that I'd make more money in this company eventually than when I did at Microsoft. And so that's my goal at the end of 10 years. You can come back and interview me at the end.
Now, do you see yourself propelled by a degree of idealism? Do you think that you are trying to make your clients, your customers, into better people? Or are you more concerned about the corporate goal? We need to have better employees come back so we can get more productivity.
Wow. I think it's a little bit of both. And it depends which program it is, right? In our lower end geoteaming programs, we're there definitely to serve the corporation. The corporation is footing the bill for and I think that's the responsibility that we have to them. And in the process, sometimes then by accident, we really improve the individual, right? Is because that comes along. The individual has to improve for the company to improve. But then there are other high-end programs that we have, such as the Journey, I think you wrote a little bit about, or you may have read a little bit about. And again, this is a super high-end 9-month class that uses Mount Rainier 6 months into the class. So the participants actually go to Summit Mount Rainier. That class goes in reverse, right? That class actually teaches all the individuals the skills, and they bring that back to the corporation and then make it better back at the end. So I think it's just a different focus depending upon which program it is.
John, just a minute ago you just mentioned the Journey. Tell us a little bit about that. What goes on in that? That just seems like a pretty big undertaking in some ways.
Yeah, you know, I like to say I started my company in reverse. I took the biggest product I think I could imagine, and I did it first. And that was the first thing I did when we went full time. Is I took 24 people. It was a 9-month class. You start 6 months prior. It's a 9-month class. You start 6 months prior to the largest event, and what happens is it leads up to 6 months into the class, summiting Mount Rainier, 14,410 feet. We take ordinary people who have never mountain climbed or summited any large mountain before, and take them through this process, exposing them to people like Stu Middleman. He's an ultramarathoner who ran 52 miles a day for 56 days. Kucharan Singh Khalsa, who's a Kundalini yoga expert who helps you teach effective breathing at high altitude. And then Peter Whitaker, who is the son of Lou Whitaker, who teaches all the hardcore mountain climbing skills. And more importantly to that is using the mountain as a metaphor for achieving a large goal and what it takes to do that. And what we like to say about the Journey too is that you'll win no matter what happens. You win the day that you sign on to it, and that you may not summit, but there are valuable lessons to take away no matter what happens. And so the first year we actually got a summit, about half the people up to the summit. But the second year we hit a storm, and nobody summited. But yet what happened was there was all these magnificent things that happened along the way that would not ever happen had they not chosen to come along. And I think that's the real beauty about selecting a large goal to go for.
I think, did you say that the storm is sometimes a good metaphor for starting a company?
Oh, well, yeah, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, there are times when, if you started a company in the last 2 or 3 years, there are a lot of companies that wouldn't survive, that would survive on a normal or in a good climate, or a good environment. And so I think it's really apt. Sometimes you have to figure out when it's more safe to turn around and look for a better time to be able to do an idea like that.
Yeah. You have an ice pick here. Is that part of what you would use within the Journey, or is that used in other things?
I use it in the Journey, and so this ice axe has actually come with me on all Journey 2000, 2001. So with 48 clients. I also took it this year to Denali. So personally, I'm always looking for new experiences. I went out myself just to try it out and see if we could build a class around it. Went and summited Denali, 20,320 feet in Alaska. In addition to that, I won an award, actually this award over here, the Better Business Bureau Innovative Business Practice Award. And I didn't know that I won, but I brought this ice axe along. And when I won, I brought the ice axe up with me. And I said, I climbed a lot of mountains, but I said winning this award was a summit of another kind. And John Curley was the MC, and he says, who let the guy in with the ice axe? Past security, because it was like post 9/11.
When you think of the experiences that have been going on, do you find that the very participation becomes an answer in itself, or do you actually go through debriefing and trying to kind of put it into a perspective before the climb and then after the climb? Do you have an approach there to bring about the change that might be needed.
Yeah.
looked for.
We use a combination of technology and adventure in this case. And so there are multiple times where we started introducing people online. We started then getting them onto teleconference and then bringing guest speakers onto teleconference. There are like 3 live events prior to the actual summit. And at each of the live events, then there are reflective periods where you're trying to find out more about yourself. Why are you on this climb? What do you want to do? What did you learn from this particular session? Because usually there was an expert speaker there, and how are they going to apply it leading up to the climb? And then the climb itself, normally a 2-day climb with a guided service, we turn into a 5.5-day experience. And so there is some it's very architected. All the time is well architected about processes that you go through. All the way from the beginning where you're just introducing everyone, building all this trust, going through this tremendous experience with each other, even to, I did a whole bunch of research. I think the people who do missionary work or something like that talk about re-entry after a big experience. And how to do that, because you've gone on this big experience, but everyone at home hasn't, and you're trying to come back and try and communicate that in some way. And then there was follow-up for the 3 months afterwards. That's why it was a 9-month program, to keep that alive. And what was amazing, these people flew to each other's city and helped each other out and had all these stories that were things that I never imagined would happen from the program that happened after the program.
It seems in some ways what you try to teach on the journey is what you might call in a very broad sense values. I mean, is that really an approach that you would go after or not?
Wow. Yeah, I think there is a part where I've gone through values exercise myself too, and I think if you have a list of values, it's kind of like our core passions for the company. If something doesn't fit technology, adventure, and human change, we won't do it. So there's a bunch of things that I've got offers for that I won't do, and I think values for people turn out that way. I mean, I've had some really interesting stories from our participants in the event. There was a guy who I think he had gone 16 years without ever taking a moment for himself. And when he was on the mountain, he said that was the first time he really had a moment to himself. And it was the first time he's had the chance to reflect on his life for 16 years. And he went and made some radical changes when he went home. You know, I think he moved from the city to the country, to a 5-acre farm after this event. So. Yeah.
Have you had any fear of failures, or have there been failures in the sense that you have normally equipped people who come on board, and then it has been such a strong experience that they, in some sense, feel weaker when they leave because there wasn't enough time to put them back together again?
No, I think that's really one of the cases where, I mean, we've had experiences that could be extremely challenging. On our first year of the program, we had 2 guys who failed what's called climb school. And you go through a 1-day training and you need to pass that to get onto the next stage. And they got really hot. They got very angry, and they were actually about to do something very dangerous, try to attempt to summit without a guide. And so we had to talk with them. And I think through that process of talking with them and through the facilitation and making sure that they had a safe plan, we really turned that into a really powerful experience for the 2 of them who got there, because they felt they got denied this opportunity. But you know, what happened, they realized at the end of the program, they said, we never did enough training. And so they said we really weren't qualified. The guides picked it out right. We were just mad, though, because we didn't get the chance.
How do you reach this dimensional leadership that becomes in part, your wish to achieve?
I think it really comes from each individual making a different set of decisions. And I think in addition to that, changing their identity of who they are that's one of the hardest things to do. And a program like the Journey, that's really what it's trying to do, is looking for a way for people to look at themselves in a different way. And that's where then the values come and support that. And that's where they come in and actually do something different after the program. I think that's what's really important.
Tell us about geoteaming. I think this use these GPS tracking things here. This doesn't tell us where we are at the moment, but anyway. But you do. People use these, and how does that work? What do you do with that?
Yeah, the geoteaming came about. There's this phenomenon called geocaching that came about, and so in May of 2000, the GPS has been around for a while, but the signal used to be scrambled, so that we only got accuracy at about 500 feet. In May of 2000, Clinton signed a bill and said that I'd like to unscramble the signal because I think there's huge commercial possibilities. After that, an Oregon professor hit a box and published a longitude and latitude in a Geology news group. Within a week, 5 people had found it. And so this phenomenon started. And so somebody built a website of hiding these boxes called geocaches and publishing the coordinates. And the phenomenon has grown now that there are, there's 600 newspaper or TV radio articles about geocaching. They have no PR team. There are over 100,000 registered users, and the website receives over 20 million hits per month. And so my advisor, Simon Priest, saw one of these articles and forwarded it to me, and he said, wouldn't this make a perfect corporate team building event? Turns out this company happens to be housed in Seattle. I met with them, and they said, yeah, we have 4 requests, but we don't want to service them. We have no skills, and we have no interest in doing that. So we formed a partnership immediately, and now our company has gotten exposed to these 20 million hits per month on the front page of their website. And that's how our business grew. Basically what it is, it's a high-tech treasure hunt. We put out a different number of locations, and we pre-program the GPS receivers. So say you two are on different teams. We give you the competitive goal that you each are trying to find as many caches as possible to score more points for your team. But there's a collaborative goal. Let's say there are 12 locations. Your 2 teams have to figure out a way to touch all 12 locations at least once to win a collaborative bonus. And so you have to use
together to get all 12. Then.
Yeah, you have to work together. You two will have to make some kind of agreement, even though you're all still competing at each other with each other at the same time.
And it's strictly a mental exercise. There is no real cache of money.
Oh, not money, no. But there are scorecards that are out there.
The scorecard is.
And you actually have to go find a real box. And this is where I think we find that we're talking about analog versus technology, very digital. And the GPS will get you close, but even with the accuracy now, it'll get you between 20 to 50 feet. But in the outdoors, that could be anywhere.
You do it outdoors.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And so then 20 to 50 feet, say in Discovery Park is one of our favorite locations. It could be behind a tree, behind a rock. And so your team then has to drop usually the GPS and start using their common sense or a clue that we've pre-programmed on a pocket PC to figure out where that is. And so everyone has a role. No matter what kind of person you are, you have a role. And then, but what's nice about it is the most physical thing that you do is just walk. Yeah.
And that is a real box that you have there.
Yep. Yeah, it's a real box that we have marked the location and then pre-programmed into the GPS. And that's how you discover where it is.
Yeah. And this is the linking of the team building, et cetera, with technology and the people. You do this because you know how to make these things work to your advantage.
Exactly. And what we find out too is that for team building, it's quite often the case of been there, done that. If they go through another team building experience and we've been there, they're like, oh, not that again, please, right? In this case, nobody has seen technology used in team building, and so especially clients like Microsoft and Adobe and who are high tech. Yeah, they love it. They go into the toy factor, they get hooked by the toys, and at the end of the day, they suddenly realize they learned something about themselves. Yeah. We are going to transport you to an unknown location of which you're going to participate in a high-tech treasure hunt or a GPS-powered team building in a case where you're going to learn team and leadership skills, team-to-team building, as well as how to compete and collaborate at the same time. This is where all the information is. So, who would like to be your information person?
That seems important.
Right. So let's pretend like all of you work for the same company. There's a company goal and such that each of the boxes contains a key, right? And so you need to find each of the caches at least once. If you find all the caches at least once, you can open a company reward, which will give you an additional bonus and something that you want by the end of this program. So you also have to collaborate if you want to get the company goal. So you have to figure out how to compete and collaborate at the same time.
Looks like a patch of laid down woods.
And so that's what you'll find is that the GPS is not entirely accurate once you get close. You have to use a combination of the GPS and the clue to actually find your location.
I found it!
Where was it?
Right
You
back
see it?
here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Most of them should be of this type of style.
Okay. What's
So,
in it? What's in it?
Leslie, nice job. Go ahead and open it up.
There's a key!
Oh, and look, there's that first finders thing.
So that's, you can see that, make sure you get a first finders, it's a different color. If there's a key in the box, go ahead and take the key.
And we have to take a picture. Is there a key in every
Yeah,
box?
then you can take a key. There's a key, there should be a key in every box. And did you get it?
I got it!
Okay.
Sweet. So go ahead and put it back quickly and let's watch the other teams flounder.
I found it!
Yay!
Good job!
Yay!
The key's in there?
The key's in here!
Awesome.
450,000! Alright. Photo.
3:45. We got 15 minutes to get back.
Okay, we can get out.
So again, have your teams go ahead and take the keys and open the box.
I think I have that brown key. This is the brown key. Yay! Hey!
Who's got the points? The other points.
after the treasure hunt and everything, where would you go next with the technology? What kinds of things would you try to apply to your concept?
Yeah, that's we're really starting to look at that now because some of our past clients are looking for what is the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we want to take geoteaming further because the technology is moving so fast. The GPS receivers are getting better. And so we're starting to see some of that. So we're going to further definitely extend geoteaming. We talked about scenarios where, glasses that start showing you information, so you get augmented reality. Those are the kind of things that we're looking for. I think movies like The Game have shown things that we're able to do. But in addition to that, I think what we're going to start looking at too is indoor, using the technology indoors to create team building initiatives that we can do, because GPS requires us to be outside.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't work because we're inside. But
yeah, in certain climates that makes it really challenging. And so we're looking at either reinventing the old classic experiential initiatives using technology, or actually creating and designing new ones to bring to people. Again, all into part the team and leadership lessons.
Do you do most of these things in the northwest Seattle area, or do you do it beyond this geographic area?
Now we're traveling a lot, and it was unintended. I thought we would do a lot of business up here, but this year we've traveled to Virginia, Las Vegas, Santa Monica, San Diego. And so it's really interesting to see us, get a little more national view of the economy and which areas are calling us. And so, yeah, we're actually traveling at this stage, and what we'd like to do is our plans are to grow those into those locations that become very popular. We're going to actually put branch offices or franchises there. Yeah.
So that would be the next step in terms of the growth of the company, would be to begin to expand it and franchise the concept around.
Yeah, when I wrote the business plan, the goals for this was this particular company was to go very big, and so national and international. And stealing one of Bill Gates' lines and modifying it is that we wanted to put a Playtime Incorporated life-changing experience in every business and every home, right? And so we figured if we could do that, then we would have something. And I think by going around into these different areas, I think that's the way for us to do that.
You haven't done anything international yet?
We've done a program in Canada, and we're about to do a second program in Canada. But we've had requests from Singapore and Bolivia and Ecuador and some really interesting places that just none of those have closed yet.
Yeah.
There is an older organization, of course, Homeward Bound. Do you find that is a direct competitor of what you do, or do you find that it's so separate anyway from the way you have thought through your program?
I think you're Outward Bound, right?
Outward Bound,
yeah. The classic program, I think, that came out of experiential education. I don't see us as a competitor. I actually met a lot of people in that field and learned a lot actually from them. And so I think we're slightly different because we have a more corporate focus, although they do have a corporate division. But I think our real key is the technology. And we don't see Outward Bound using as much technology in their programs, although I think they're starting to increase too.
Do you have competitors?
We do. We actually found out that we were bidding against some other people who were picking up the GPS things. And so we also found another website that actually stole some of our text and started using the name Geoteaming that we're going to have to go after. So we have an early start. We have first mover advantage. Gosh, when's the last time you heard that? But we also believe that other people will come around to it.
Yeah. Well, there are a few barriers to entry to what you're doing. It's mostly what you have up here and a little bit of technology.
Yeah, and then what we're doing is we're going to expand the technology, and that will further increase the barrier to entry by the level of technologies that we're using inside the programs. So.
Do you have a contraption here? What is that going to be used for?
This one right here?
Yeah.
This is called the GPS 5. What it is it's a higher-end GPS. We're actually going to use it in a program this weekend. What it does is it allows you to have maps installed for it. And it'll first tell you where you are, and then you can put in any address or any location. It'll give you turn-by-turn street instructions inside your car. And if you make a wrong turn, it will recalculate and again tell you which way to go, even if you make a wrong turn. And so we're going to be using this in actually in a limousine high-tech treasure hunt, and where they'll be instructing the limousine drivers which way to go. They don't know exactly the location, but they have to follow this device trying to get there. Yeah, so it's fascinating to watch these devices work now, and that this technology is now available for not very much money and able to be placed on your dash and be portable.
I don't know what to say about team building of limousine drivers.
We tried to get Hummers for the event, but they didn't go for that.
Have you expanded at all? You're still a closed corporation, tight corporation right now. You haven't franchised anywhere yet or anything like that.
No. We just have plans for it and a lot of interest. We've had multiple people, so we've been collecting those names and trying to systematize our program enough so that we can teach other people. And I really think that's where we're going to end up going next year, is training a large number of people to do these kind of programs in other places. Yeah.
Do you use a lot of printed material in connection with your course, or is it more kind of face-to-face teamwork discussion? as you go along?
Printed material like a workbook or
Yeah,
something like
right,
that? We do a little bit of workbook, again, especially when we do reflective assignments. We give a little bit of paperwork out. For instance, we give a map for the course because the map actually is too small, even on these screens, to read effectively. But yeah, and then for instance in the journey we actually still create a full workbook to be able to go through. So it just depends on the client and depends on their goals that we'll continue to use any medium that we think necessary to create a great program.
How about proportion men and women?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. We've seen pretty good proportions. Again, a lot of if we hit high-tech companies, there seems to be more guys, obviously, than women. But what we find is that the women are better players. Quite often, they find the box first, they lead the teams, and they often create the cross-collaboration. So I found that fascinating, working with, especially with mixed groups.
And you still get a team at the end of the experience?
Yeah. You'll get a team. Actually, I think you'll even get an even stronger team because I think people find out what roles they're really, really good at, and then they can be able to place themselves in the roles. In addition to that, you also find out how different people work. So if you know somebody does something all the time, then at least even if it grates on you, you know that that's what to expect from that person. And I think that's I think that's one of the key parts for teams is to.
Do they tend to be from a corporation, or do you have a mix of employees from different companies?
Most of the time it's from the same corporation. And that's what we also found. We have research that says doing it with intact groups is the most effective way to do this. But occasionally we hold open programs, and people are still amazed about how much value they can get out of it and how quickly their teams can form in 4 hours or less.
Among your clients, is there any kind of a trend? I mean, do you see more technology companies than not, or more retail than not, or something like that?
It's really starting to grow. We've had retailers, we've had food, we've had a lot of, again, the high tech obviously is attracted to it, consultants, and magazines. So yeah, I think we're starting to go across the gamut now. But again, I originally targeted high tech companies mainly because of my background, and now we're starting to branch out.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you really believe in your program?
Yes.
Because when I think of the notion of climbing a wall, I'd be really hard to persuade that I should start.
Exactly. I think that's why the old experiential initiatives don't work anymore. Or a lot of people from ropes courses, they have a really negative reaction. I think what this does is allow to get the same lessons, but all you would have to do, I mean, you can walk, right? If you're mobile, that's all you need to do with this. And I think it becomes more of a thinking challenge, more than anything. I think people that just try and power through this are ones that don't play very well. The ones who sit down and stop and think are the ones who create the really interesting solutions that we've seen in this particular simulation.
You have the journey, you have geoteaming. Do you do anything else, or you're starting to look at anything else that fits into your category, your philosophy?
We do keynote speaking, and a lot of times we do keynote speaking in a way that we bring it to life instead of just talking with people. And there are other things in the works. We've actually had past programs that use things like indoor rock climbing, so a little more traditional. We've done also some indoor initiatives that we brought back from the experiential field. But I do think the geoteaming is by far the biggest thing that we found this year, and that there's another product, definitely one past this one.
Yeah.
What's been the oldest age that you've had represented in your group?
Oh, wow. I think somewhere between 65 and 70.
And youngest?
Youngest? We've actually taken this program to my son's school, so we had 6 to 8-year-olds. Imagine, kids. There's about a dozen kids commanding over $2,000 worth of GPS receivers, and they are good. They are very good. They learn extremely quick.
Yeah. Huh. Is the company still self-financed, or have you had to or want to go out and find other kinds of money for it?
Still self-financed. I've thought about outside financing, but not yet. We don't have the reason to go out. But maybe if we start expanding, I think that would be where we're really doing that. So I've been cultivating connections all along the way, but haven't had to call on them yet.
Yeah. So, would you be generating enough cash yet to be able to do any kind of expansion on your own, or?
Yeah, we were just starting to hit that towards the end of this year, and that's what we're really excited about, because now we finally, I think that's one of the things about businesses too. You write and you think there's a business model, and then you actually have to go out and apply it to the real world and see what the world is really going to pay for.
You get really surprised when it works.
And then now I think we have the solution. I really think we have a product that allows us to do that. We really believe that a fixed geoteaming course can produce enough capital for us to either finance expansion or other projects. Yeah.
Do you see yourself setting up a training facility somewhere where you would have your own things and have people come to it, as opposed to using Discovery Park or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. And whether it's a collaboration between that or sometimes a collaboration with a hotel because they have the services we need, meeting rooms and food, and rooms for people to stay for multi-day conferences. We've seen a lot of strategies where people partner like that. When we get a fixed location, this means that we can do even more expanded things, such as, for instance, one of the ideas is to install Wi-Fi hot points in certain points so that you could actually connect online and get information in certain areas. Once we fix a location like that, we think that the simulation will become more sophisticated. So we're looking forward to that this year.
Yeah, you touched on something I wanted to ask you about when that was the Wi-Fi phenomenon, because I think that would have tremendous application to what you're trying to do here. If you can walk around and be able to tap into things and use email and things like that to communicate with your team members, perhaps, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that here's a hidden business model hidden inside of here because all this wireless technology, we kind of force people to train. We've accidentally taught more people, over 1,000 people, how to use GPS receivers over the last year. In a very short amount of time. We teach them in about 15 to 20 minutes. And I think, work scenario-wise, if we make a work scenario which was just like work, but used all these devices in a wireless way, we may be able to train, sales forces or other types of things like that to use these tools to their advantage at the end. Things like Nextel phones and all the, the direct connect and walkie-talkie type features, all these types of things are starting to seep into our programs now.
Given the fact that the end destination is to try to improve teamwork,
Yes.
what happens to an individual who comes in and basically is a dictator, but by chance a company has sent him to kind of get a little message?
What they find out is the dictator will come in and try and rule the game, and there's two things that'll happen. Either he or she succeeds, right? But the team does not succeed because they miss all these skills that all the other people have. Or worse is that the dictator tries to take over and fails, and this person gets a direct connection to what their actions are and what the results are. And we've seen this actually occur, that the teams that don't work very well together don't score very high. And this is why we made it competitive, is because at the end you get a rank, and people are interested in that. And if they see that and then take that with their actions and start to reflect on it, they'll start to see that their actions have an effect at the end. And I think that's the biggest lesson that you could give a dictator.
And will you then do a debriefing so that he or she in a way recognizes that perhaps there are some explanations for what happened?
Yeah, and in this case too, what we do is sometimes we design where the leader gets feedback from all the people inside the group. And if we can do that in a safe and honest place. So this is why we do these scenarios outside of work, because there's now no risk except maybe your pride and your ego, instead of money and business deals and all sorts of other things going on. These people hopefully are in a safe enough place that they can comment about that. And that's one of the ground rules we try to set up in a program, that what happens at the event stays at the event, and that people are open enough to really say the things that they feel are true.
When companies come to you, are they broken and trying to fix themselves, or are they okay and trying to improve themselves, or what goes on with it? What's the incentive to come to you? What drives the company to come to you?
I think the majority of them come that they think they're good and they want to become better. And we discover a few of them are broken. A couple come, I think a very few of them come broken and then try and fix ourselves. I thought that was going to be a big market, but not many leaders will admit that their teams are broken. I think it takes a pretty big leader to admit that. And so that's actually the fourth program. We talked about recreational, educational, developmental. Renewal is the last one, and the renewal is where you take a broken team, and it's like near therapy work is basically what happens. We have to hire high-level facilitators that have therapy backgrounds to handle, because a lot of times it's conflict between individuals that we have to solve.
Have you found that works?
It can. It can when done properly. You can't take the most disastrous thing is to take a broken team and put them in a recreational program and think that you're going to fix them, because those two things don't mix, right? You'll never get the result from a recreational program if you're trying to change a team that's completely broken. Yeah.
So you need to have the therapy. You need to have the deeper kind of look at where the problems lie and that sort of thing.
If you want to make that change. If you want to make the change.
Do you find that they come back for repeats, or do they come back for a more enhanced experience?
Usually what we see is that then once they get exposed to experience and we give a little teaser of the next level from that, they see the value of that and they start to come back for the next level. And that's what we see with repeat people. Either that, the other repeat people that we have are people that have different groups cycling in all the time. So they take the same level program and represent it to them again, but to a different group. But ideally, that's what we like to see, is that there's a path, right? There's a journey inside the company to come from these recreational, educational, and then to the developmental programs. Because even though the developmental programs cost more, you get a much higher return on your investment for that style of program.
How would you answer a company or a criticism of the whole industry that says this is stupid? I mean, it's done. I mean, it's play acting, you know, blah blah blah. What do you say to people like that?
I think that I brought articles. Time Magazine was talking about people like Men's Warehouse going, they invest millions of dollars inside of programs like this, and I think just from my experience back at Microsoft, if you really like the place that you work, you engage a person and you get more productivity out of them. And if you have teams that are checked out, you're losing lots and lots of valuable resources and time from them because they're checked out the rest of the time that they're there. The second part is I would say go look at the research. We can point you to some research that shows this kind of training can have an effect on the teams when done properly. And I think a lot of people who have that experience is because they had a bad experience. There's something done in the field that wasn't done in the way that would best produce the result. And I think a lot of people, maybe earlier service providers, have done us a disservice. A lot of times, I think the biggest one was that chase, where we can fix your broken team, but we gave you a recreational program, and then it didn't change anything, and then you would feel that way at the end of the program. And I would too if I went through that experience.
You still have an item there that we haven't talked about, the digital camera. Does it have an actual function in the team building?
Yeah, and the digital camera is used in the geoteaming program, and the first off what that it does is that we need to photo verify that you're actually at a location. This is so you can't cheat and you can't take all the cards and then give them to the other teams later. So your teams actually still have to go to the location so that they shoot a photo of their team at that location so we know that they're there. But at the end of the program, the technology's gotten so good and so fast, we actually come and download all the cameras at the end of the program, and after we go through a half hour or to an hour debrief, we can actually go and give the team scores, and at the end of the program, show them the pictures from the day. And so we do this digital slideshow at the end, and they get a chance to recount and look at the different things that they've done through the day. Yeah. And I think it's a great memory piece as well as a great closing piece. And then quite often we can hand all the pictures to them on CD-ROM at the end. And
you have a certificate at the end that kind of testifies to the fact that they did carry through?
Gosh, no, we don't have a certificate, but I think we should develop one. I've just improved my business in today.
How about giving us a little example of sort of what you try and do? Although I thought you said you were a high-tech company. That doesn't look particularly high-tech to me, but let's go from there anyway.
Well, there's something, sometimes we have to use low-tech things. Again, remember, we're trying to do the balance of high-tech and low-tech. But obviously, today for something indoors, we'd like to give you something that's interesting. In this case, what we're trying to do here is we're going to put you guys through a short experience. And again, with our company, we could tell you about it, but if you actually get an experience of it, you'll actually understand a lot more. In this case, we have a scenario here. We have very, very busy people in our lives, and we're trying to do a lot of things. Each one of these nails is a task, and there are 12 tasks here, and you're trying to get these all done. The way to get a task accomplished is if you can get the task supported by this is actually you, and this is actually one of your tasks. And what you're trying to do is support as many tasks as possible only by yourself, and you can only use this and no outside materials and can't use anything else. So what this is an exercise quite often in creativity and out-of-the-box thinking. And again, the two of you guys will have a chance to work with each other and see if you can bring your ideas together. You have any questions?
No. Can it touch the board?
No.
Only the.
Yeah, only the top here.
Okay.
And so somehow it's a question of balancing it on top of that one standing nail to see whether that would be.
Perfect. So that would be one,
okay.
Right?
I got one job done.
Good job. Way to go. How'd you do that?
Okay, it's your turn. Well, now
took care of your problem.
12 at the same time. Yes, that's a good clarification.
I can't even get mine said yet. I don't know. We could do it like that. Yep. No, we can't even do that way.
That should do it. Put it flat on.
So as you can see, it's hard to juggle and balance our busy lives the way that we have it.
Yeah, let's see if you can get it on as well. Okay, so now I suppose the theory would be that you should be able to get a second task.
Yeah.
So one of the things too is we're always looking for is sustainable solutions. Yeah, I'm going to help out a little bit because obviously this is a challenging one. One of the clues that we give is first off is what's on top of a barn.
Oh, a roof.
A roof, right. And so what shape is a roof?
Repeat, yeah.
Okay, so first off, let's see if we can get Steve to place one of the nails down here. Okay. And then let's get Bud. Bud will grab another one of these.
Okay.
And then go ahead and lay it across. So you keep this down and lay it across this way. Good. Okay. And so again, what we're looking for is an out-of-the-box solution. Quite often, to support some kind of out-of-the-box solution, you need some kind of foundation, and usually, again, a solution that is out of the box. Again, Steve will then take another nail and place it opposite to that. Again, this way. Good. Go ahead, and then Bud, go ahead and repeat that.
Okay, are we this way?
No, again, laying out this way.
Or like a roof, yeah, okay.
Go ahead and continue until you get down to the last nail. We now have Bud and Stephen working as a team.
Hey, we've been working as a team for a long time.
Perfect. So now, with this last nail, there's a way to lock this solution in. So let's see. Bud, go ahead and grab the last nail. And a lot of times after we get a great foundation, we need to find a way to lock in the support. So if you actually lay that on top, and then Bud grab this end and Stephen grab this end, holding these two pieces together, and then pick it up. Be careful and keep them together. Yeah, I'll have to keep that. Yeah, I have to hold on to both sides there. There you go. Go ahead and pick that up. Almost there. Here, and I'll flip this one around actually. There you go. So again, keep these and hold these two together. And go ahead and lift that.
Come on, Bud, get with the program.
Let's see. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, hold that and see if you two can lift together. And now balance that on the top.
Are we about halfway?
If you can feel it, you can figure out if you're balanced or not.
Oh, we're close.
That should be pretty close.
Let's see.
I can't believe it.
And
How
so
about
now,
that's more sense.
That is an out-of-box solution to
and through the power of teamwork, this is how you can achieve things that which you previously thought was impossible.
that is a great illustration of that.
John, thank you very much. It was a great example of your theory and how your company works. And it was great to work with Bud again as a team, finally work with him with good teamwork. And thank you very much for being on Entrepreneurs and Innovators.
Thank you. Hi, I'm John Chen, the CEO of Playtime Incorporated, creating life-changing adventures, infusing team and leadership skills through technology and adventures. We were just able to share some time on Entrepreneurs and Innovators, and I hope that it's benefited or inspired you in some way, shape, or form. I had a great friend tell me once that when you get the opportunity to speak, use that opportunity to make a difference. So what I'd like to do is share a process that I use to create my company in 48 hours and compress it down to about 5 minutes. I think you'll find it beneficial if you just take the time and answer the questions very honestly. Yep, you'll need a piece of paper and a pen, and once you get that, come right back. This is called the angel investor, and so an angel investor has found you, and they want to invest in you, into your idea, and what they're able to do is give you any amount of resources, any amount of money, people, resources that you'll need to create a company to start a company of your dreams. The investor has some rules. First, you must be willing to commit your next 10 years to this venture. Next, you must do something that benefits humankind. Also, it has to be something that you love to do, that you would do no matter if you got paid for it or not. Your angel investor understands that you might be afraid to pick just one thing. So an angel investor will allow you to pick something for the first year, change after the first year if you don't think it's right for you. Go on to the next year, change one more time and pick a third idea, but after that you better have got it right and complete all the way to the next 10 years. There's just one more catch. The investor is going to walk in about 5 seconds. You will have 30 seconds to pitch these ideas or write them down on your piece of paper in 30 seconds. Your investor walks in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You now have 30 seconds. What would you do if you had the ability to do anything, any resources? What kind of company would you create? What kind of difference would you want to make? What kind of ideas would you put together? What set of unique skills and talents do you have? 15 seconds? How would you want to make a difference? Who would you become in 10 years if you pursued this? And how would you go about this? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now just take a moment there and circle the one that you think that you'd like to do first. And then take the next 30 seconds and just write down 2 action items that you can take today to start along the way of this dream. It could be as simple as a web search, or it could just be asking a question of somebody else or doing a little research at the library. You now have 30 seconds. Write down 2 action items. What would it take to make this happen? Just take one small step from today. Quite often it's the hardest step. Who could you talk to? What resources could you get to? 15 seconds. What other things could you do? What resources are all around you that you haven't looked at until you started having this idea? Who could you share this idea with who could help you out? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I hope you take some action on these ideas in the next 24 to 48 hours. And I think what happens is that's how I started my company and started my dream. If you'd like to find out more about our corporate team building programs or leadership programs that use technology and adventure, look us up on the web at www.playtimeinc, PlaytimeInc.com, playtimeinc.com, or call us at 877-652-0875. It's been an honor and pleasure to spend this time here with you today, and I hope you find some way to make today a life-changing adventure. Thanks.